Welcome to Rice TVX and the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Give me a 5x5 and let me know that you can hear me loud and clear for today's live stream. Make sure you smash that like button. It helps other people to find these videos in a YouTube algorithm flow. Today is the 14th anniversary of Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin white paper. Bitcoin's mysterious creator first introduced the white paper on Met's Dowd cryptography mailing list on October the 31st, 2008, 14 years ago, approximately 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time. And before we begin, to give everybody time to get situated in today's live stream to join me today, a few quick messages from the sponsors of Rice TVX.
Cryptocurrency, DeFi, NFTs? Sounds confusing? BitLab Academy is here to help. We make it simple. Start investing in crypto, learn trading fundamentals, learn to mint and trade NFTs. Join our community today. Crypto for beginners, taught by the pros.
And you can always find information for the sponsors of Rice TVX in every video description. Shout out to BitLab Academy, Monarch Wallet, and Presearch. What is good, ladies and gentlemen? It's good to be back. Haven't put out a video for almost a week, but I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much. Again, make sure you guys are smashing that like button because it does help people to find Rice TVX and videos like these. All right, so the first thing that I want to say is today is the 14th anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. It was released October the 31st, 2008. Going to talk about the white paper briefly. Going to share a link so that you can read it in its entirety. And I always encourage people to educate yourself. If you haven't read the Bitcoin white paper, read it. There's a lot of technical things in there that you may not understand. I'm going to read the beginning of it, the abstract, and a little bit into it. Going to share my thoughts about cryptocurrency, why it was created, and why I have chosen to promote cryptocurrencies, start a YouTube channel, and talk about this stuff and why it's important to me. So real quick, what I do want to do is ask everybody to make sure that you head over to ricetvx.com. There's a lot of changes that are going to be happening here at the channel. For one, I've got a new channel. Don't really have any videos there. I'm in the process of getting all that kind of imported over and getting more content over there. So what was known as the former Stranger Than Fiction content is now going to be under the YouTube channel, Rice Against the Grain. If you head over to ricetvx.com, you can sign up for my mailing list. Once you sign up for my mailing list, then I'll keep you updated on all things Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain. I have not done a newsletter in several months. I'm going to be starting the newsletter back because I need to have communication with my community. Once you sign up for the mailing list, if you have not already, it will take you right over here to the main website. At the very top of the website, you will see various links. You will find a link for Rice Against the Grain YouTube channel. You will also find my Patreon channel, my Rumble channel, my Odyssey channel. You will find my social media links. So everything will still be the same on Odyssey and Rumble. I may eventually start a Rice Against the Grain channel on those platforms, but as of now, Rice TVX will remain the same on Odyssey and Rumble, with having Rice Against the Grain as well as the Rice Crypto Show, which does include the Rice Report. So Rice TVX is going to be focusing on cryptocurrency, economics, and politics. And then Rice Against the Grain is obviously going to be all the stranger than fiction stuff, the fringe topics, the conspiracies, law, history, alternative history, hidden history, spirituality, and whatever else that I want to go against the grain on. So make sure you head over to ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list. You'll find all my links over there as well. So we have the Bitcoin white paper. It was released today, 14 years ago. Do not have anybody who's made any comments so far. There's only 7 people watching. Being that I have not put out a video in a week, I'm still dealing with the ramifications from a strike. I figured not many people would be notified. I only scheduled this thing maybe an hour and a half in advance. In case you missed it, I was over on Around the Blockchain earlier on BitBoy Crypto. I encourage you to check that out. I was joined by BitBoy. I was also joined by Gareth Soloway, as well as Michael Saylor. So be sure to check that one out. Mr. B, thanks for the comment. Thanks for letting me know you're here. All 8 people watching. I will be sure to be promoting this after I'm done with the video. So we have the Bitcoin white paper. Now, I got a couple articles I'm going to be sharing. And again, I will go into why Bitcoin is important to me. I want to go ahead and go full screen here for a moment. So the Bitcoin white paper basically is an explanation as to what Bitcoin is. The code was released right at this point, and then the very first Bitcoin started the mining process, the creation of the very first block, the Genesis block, the beginning of what we call the blockchain, took place on January 3rd. So there were several months in between the white paper being released and the first Bitcoin being mined. So the title of this is Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The abstract of this, it's a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash, would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. I'll add a third party, an intermediary. PayPal would be one. Your bank would be one. Those kind of situations are financial institutions that are a middleman. So I will continue. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. Double spending is the problem that cryptographers had with creating a cryptocurrency, because it wasn't as if Satoshi Nakamoto, the individual or group, was the first. I will be doing a video tomorrow talking about the cypherpunks. Actually, what I will do really quickly, I have a really cool thumbnail that I created. So I will throw up that thumbnail. I will schedule it after this live stream. The Cypherpunk Manifesto that was released March 9th of 1993. I kind of want to get back to basics with the cryptocurrency here on Rice TVX and why I'm involved with this whole space, why I'm a fan of decentralization, and why I'm a fan of this idea of Bitcoin and what it was meant to be. And I'm not getting into a discussion versus what it is today and all the different cryptocurrencies. But if it wasn't for Bitcoin, we wouldn't be where we are in the cryptocurrency space. It has solved what we call the blockchain trilemma that was created, that was penned by Vitalik Buterin, which is security, scalability, and decentralization. And Bitcoin is still the most secure network. It is the strongest network in cryptocurrency and pretty much probably one of the most secure networks on this planet since its creation, with the idea, the abstract coming out 14 years ago today. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamp transactions. Let me start that over. The network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. The longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as the majority of CPU power is controlled by the nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. The network itself requires minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. So the introduction, commerce, and this is a 9-page document. I'm not going to be going through the entirety of the white paper. I'm not going to be reading beyond 2. I'll share a little bit of things. But the introduction, commerce on the internet has come to rely almost extensively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weakness of the trust-based model. Completely non-reversible transactions are not possible since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs, limiting the minimal practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small casual transactions. And there is a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. Merchants must be wary of their customers, hassling them for more information than they would otherwise need. A certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. These costs and payments uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communication channel without a trusted party, a third party, intermediary. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need of a trusted third party. This is important. Transactions that are computationally impractical to reverse would protect sellers from fraud. The routine escrow mechanisms could easily be implemented to protect buyers. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. The system is secure as long as honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. Now, I know all that sounds really boring, but when it comes down to it, is creating this electronic peer-to-peer cash that doesn't need an intermediary, doesn't need a financial institution, a trusted or non-trusted third party. It doesn't need that bridge. Peer-to-peer is exactly what it sounds like. It's person to person, direct. Now, the problem, that we have with cryptocurrency today, unfortunately, is that where Satoshi Nakamoto had this idea of a peer-to-peer cash system, Bitcoin is turned into a store of wealth, a store of value, where people don't want to spend it because of the scarcity of it, which is really interesting to think about. I will be throwing up little advertisements. Make sure you pay attention to them. Support me on my Patreon channel. That'd be greatly appreciated. And again, make sure you subscribe over at Rice Against the Grain. Need to get those subscriber numbers up so I can start going live over there. So if you're not subscribed and you like the Stranger Than Fiction content, go to Rice Against the Grain and make sure you subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I don't want to get into a long discussion about what Bitcoin has become versus what the original intention and idea is, because I still feel as if there are cryptocurrencies that represent those original values. And I still feel like that's still a part of the ethos of Bitcoin. But for some of you that might be new to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, in 2017, we had a fork, a code fork, a hard fork, in fact, which split the Bitcoin chain. So if you think the Bitcoin blockchain as being train tracks, what essentially happened was you had the Bitcoin train track that was just chugging along, and it was just one chain. And then you had this idea of a disagreement between developers, one on the Bitcoin Cash side, one on the Bitcoin side. Now, there wasn't called Bitcoin Cash at the time. They wanted bigger blocks. They wanted to increase the block size for the throughput of Bitcoin, and the core developers disagreed. So those developers that disagreed split apart, and it created a fork, and there was Bitcoin Cash being created. I did a really in-depth interview a few years ago with Roger Ver about this situation. It was in 2020. I encourage you to check that out. I do have a playlist with the interviews that I did with Roger Ver, and he wasn't the individual that created Bitcoin Cash, but he was the individual that pushed Bitcoin Cash to the public. He felt as if Bitcoin Cash was representing the original ideals of what Satoshi Nakamoto created with the Bitcoin white paper, being a peer-to-peer cash system where Bitcoin in its current capacity, he felt wasn't staying true to the white paper. That's a discussion for another day. And I will be talking more about this idea of what took place, what Bitcoin started as versus where it is today. But ultimately, just seeing what this technology represented, to me, it was this creative destruction. It was, and creative destruction is a business term that's used for when a technology a newer technology replaces an antiquated technology. And I like to use music as an example with recordings of music. We had records, then we went to 8 tracks, then we went to cassettes, then we went to CDs. Then there was a few experiments with things in between CDs and MP3s, like mini discs and such. But then we went to MP3s, then we went to cloud-based streaming. So all of that is forms of creative destruction, because now the cloud-based streaming is making the physical CDs and records more obsolete unless you are someone who appreciates the analog and enjoys that warm tone from a record per se. And also, not only the creative destruction, but creative destruction, and with being that the blockchain as a technology is going to be able to disrupt many industries, and take away that trusted intermediary third party. Record labels are a great example. Musicians can do things with the blockchain with smart contracts and get rid of record labels. The supply chain industry. There's a lot of different things. Ticketing. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's a lot of different industries that can be disrupted by blockchain technology. But the most important thing for me with Bitcoin was an answer for us as individuals to get away from the control that governments and central banks have over us because of the monetary system, which is completely debt-based, that makes each and every one of us a slave to the system. And Bitcoin and other decentralized cryptocurrencies, and I'm not saying all, give us an opportunity to get away from the banks, to get away from the control mechanisms of the governments. This is counter economics. This is agorism. I'm going to be talking a lot more about agorism in future episodes. It's going to be a big part of what I'm going to be doing moving forward with Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain. Agorism, counter economics, parallel societies, parallel marketplaces, however you want to put it. This technology gives us that option. Not only that, a lot of people who don't really fully understand the technology, one, I'm sure you're using other technologies that you don't understand. I don't fully understand how email works, but I use it. I don't fully understand how I can be in my home, have all this different equipment around me, push a couple buttons on a computer, and I'm live on the internet where people all around the world can watch me. Still have no clue how the majority of that works, but I'm still using it. So don't be afraid of what you don't know, for one. And the big thing that I want to let people know is that, and this is something that I have to constantly remind people that aren't involved in cryptocurrency, is that cryptocurrency is a tool. Blockchain technology is a tool. And these tools are not inherently good or bad. And these tools can be the problem and the solution. For example, a CBDC. It's not a cryptocurrency, it's a digital asset. But that is a problem. And it can be a bigger problem than the fiat debt-based system that we have when we combine it with a CBDC. Something like Bitcoin, where it's an open network, where you can take and review all of the code. Everything about it is a transparent glass house. You can review, you can analyze everything about it. There's nothing hidden. It's a tool. And it's a tool that can help us to get away from the control mechanisms that the governments and central banks have put into place with this debt-based system for us to have a way to opt out. Counter economics, not using their dollars, not using their fiat money that's worth nothing. because value is only perceived anyways. Value is only perceived. If you're enjoying this video, please smash that like button. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video about the Cypherpunk Manifesto. Because again, we're getting back to basics here on Rice TVX and why I got involved in crypto. And today is a damn good reason to talk about it. Because today, 14 years ago, was the day that the white paper was released by Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the screen share. I have a few articles here. And this comes from Bitcoin.com. Satoshi Nakamoto's seminal Bitcoin white paper turns 14 today. I will check out the comments at the end of the video after I've gone through everything, which should be about another 10 minutes or so. I do appreciate you guys for taking the time to tune in. It's greatly appreciated. So approximately 14 years ago on Halloween today, Satoshi Nakamoto introduced Bitcoin to the world by sharing their renowned white paper. Satoshi's invention, shared on metsdowd.com's cryptography mailing list, not only solved a problem that had plagued computer scientists for years, but the invention also redefined how people look at money. And that it did for me. Furthermore, as a side effect, Satoshi's creation spawned a new digital economy with more than 13,000 cryptocurrency assets worth just over $1 trillion today. Celebrating the 14th anniversary of Satoshi's Bitcoin white paper. So again, it was released approximately 2:10 p.m. on Halloween, October 31st, 2008. What's so important about that time period? Well, during that time period, the United States and the rest of the world was having a lot of global economic problems, which are things that we are currently experiencing now. And now Bitcoin is being put to the test for what it was created for, in my opinion. In my opinion, it was a way to get us away from the control mechanisms, like I mentioned, because in 2008, our system should have truly crashed. The Federal Reserve and other central banks did quantitative easing, and quantitative easing QE 1, 2, and 3, and then going into 2020 with QE infinity, all the money they printed up. They halted trading in the stock markets in 2008. They halted trading on the stock markets in 2020. The system is pretty much done with, and they're trying to continue it going on. I feel as if the release of this technology was perfect timing. Some people say Bitcoin was released by the government. Satoshi is the government, the NSA, something to that effect, the CIA. If that were true, I believe in dualities. So what I mean by that is you might have good guys, people who care about humanity and see the problems that I'm talking about, that work at the NSA, that work at the CIA, that are part of the government, even part of the Federal Reserve. I'm sure that everybody in the Federal Reserve is not pro CBDC when it really comes down to it, because I've already heard grumblings from various people in the Federal Reserve and the government in regards to a CBDC. So with that being said, this was giving us a way to get away from those control mechanisms and giving us a chance. I'll put it in better words, because this next article that talks about who is Satoshi Nakamoto. So why was Bitcoin created? I don't want to go into the length of this article. It's just this part of the article made a lot of sense, and it really explains things from a really good point of view. And it'll sum up where I'm thinking. Let's try to explain this a lot better. So why was Bitcoin created? And this comes from a Cointelegraph article. Who is the mysterious creator? Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto. I was trying to look for the date that it was written. Maybe it's at the bottom. I don't know. They're going to be going through a lot of different people who they say they think is Satoshi, but in the article, I'm not going to be going over that. I just specifically wanted to go over the creation. So although Nakamoto, and I want to go ahead and go full screen on this so everybody can see this a little bit better. All right. So although Nakamoto remains a mysterious figure, his goal for creating cryptocurrency in itself was never a mystery. Simply put, he created it to take financial control back from financial elites, giving ordinary people a chance to take part in a decentralized financial system. Bitcoin remains open source, meaning that no one has the power to own or control it in its entirety. Its design is public, and it is open for anyone to participate. Bitcoin was a response to the great financial crisis. This is what we experienced in the turmoil of 2008, which showed that even the world's biggest banks can fail, but they can also be bailed out. It highlighted the fragility of the modern financial system and called for the decentralization of financial transactions. As such, cryptocurrency was born, and Bitcoin was one of the first options outside the traditional financial system for the public to participate in intermediate free financial transactions. The blockchain is how cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin develop trust among users and ensure security, as it is a network-based ledger that all participants can access. The Genesis block of Bitcoin was mined January 3rd, 2009 by Satoshi Nakamoto, officially launching the blockchain. A Genesis block is the first block of a cryptocurrency to be mined and acts as the foundation of the blockchain. For the first few months of its existence, Bitcoin had no monetary equivalent worth. Miners, people who use their computers to solve complex math problems to discover or mine new Bitcoin, were doing so only for novelty. Miners also helped to verify the validity and accuracy of Bitcoin's transactions. The actual Bitcoin payout received by miners is essentially a reward for auditing and processing the highly encrypted data that is part of each transaction. This ensures that each Bitcoin is properly accounted for and cannot be spent more than once. That double spending problem is the main problem that Satoshi Nakamoto was able to solve and create that many cryptographers were not able to do. And the first real-world transaction happened on May 22nd, 2010, when a man from Florida agreed to exchange two $25 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin, thereby making May 22nd Bitcoin Pizza Day. It marked the first economic transaction for cryptocurrency. Back then, Bitcoin was valued at 4 Bitcoin per penny. 4 Bitcoin per penny in 2010. Since then, its value has multiplied exponentially. That's why they say if you would have invested $100 anytime in 2009, that it would be worth multiple millions of dollars, because 4 Bitcoins for 1 penny. That's the price that we're talking about. So as you go back, and I do definitely encourage you to read the white paper in its entirety. I did include a link for this in the articles that I shared on today's video. It goes further into transactions, the timestamp server, the proof of work. See, this is where, in a sense, Satoshi piggybacked off of a lot of different cryptographers. Adam Back being one from Blockstream. And one of the main ones who people consider to be the godfather of cryptography is David Chaum, who was the creator of eCash. He, in 1982 or 83, I think it was 82, wrote a dissertation paper, which included all but one element of the Bitcoin white paper, which was the double spend proof of work scenario. So this guy was able to visualize in 82, 83, everything about a blockchain, not calling it a blockchain, not calling it Bitcoin, but the concepts were all there. And that's why he's considered to be the godfather of cryptography. He created the very first digital asset with eCash, aside from the IMF's SDR back in 1969. And proof of work was something that Satoshi Nakamoto used from Atom Cash. So to implement a distributed timestamp server on a peer-to-peer basis, we need to use a proof of work system similar to Adam Back's Hashgraph. Adam Back is also somebody that people have put as a candidate for who Satoshi is. Again, this video is not about who Satoshi is, just about the fact that this gift was laid upon us, this gift of technology, the Bitcoin white paper. Goes into the incentive, the reclaiming disk space, the simplified payment verification, and there's charts that show how all this works as well, combining and splitting value, privacy. Privacy is really important. That's one of the reasons why I'm involved in crypto. The traditional banking system achieves a level of privacy by limiting access to information to the parties involved by a trusted third party. A necessity to announce all transactions publicly preludes this method, but privacy can still be maintained by breaking the flow of information in another place by keeping public keys anonymous. The public can see that someone is sending an amount to someone else, but without information linking the transaction to anyone. This is similar to a level of information released by stock exchanges where the time and size of the individual trades, the tape, is made public, but without telling anyone who the parties were. So what's important about that now, Bitcoin is not private in that aspect, fully private. It is pseudo anonymous. It's not anonymous, it's pseudo. So there are ways for chain analysis companies, government entities to be able to track back your IP address to a cryptocurrency address and connect you with that address. That's the pseudo anonymity in it. If you weren't sharing a bunch of information publicly and you were very cautious about how you are sending and receiving your cryptocurrencies, you can do a really better job at being a lot more private in what you do. But this is a transparent, open system that you can see everything. You don't have to trust it because you can verify everything. It takes trust out of the equation. Goes into with number 11, calculations. A lot of math stuff here. So for all you math geeks and all you people who are into cryptography and coding, definitely something that I would encourage you to check out a little bit more. It gives references at the bottom. I will read number 12, the conclusion. We have proposed a system for electronic transactions without relying on trust, taking out trust out of the equation. Who'd have thunk it? We started with the usual framework of coins made from digital signatures, which provide strong control of the ownership, but is incomplete without a way to prevent double spending. To solve this, we proposed a peer-to-peer network using proof of work to record a public history of transactions that quickly becomes computationally impractical for any attacker to change honest nodes, control a majority of the CPU power. That's where you get the idea of a 51% attack. If one computer or one miner was able to take over 51% of the network, then they could attack the network, which is something that happened recently to another fork of Bitcoin Cash known as Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, BSV. The network is robust in its unstructured simplicity. Nodes work all at once with little coordination. They do not need to be identified since messages are not routed to any particular place and only need to be delivered on the best effort basis. Nodes can leave and rejoin a network at will, accepting the proof of work chain as proof of what has happened while they were gone. They vote with their CPU power, expressing their acceptance of valid blocks by working on extending them and rejecting invalid blocks by refusing to work on them. Any needed rules and incentives can be enforced with this consensus mechanism. So, again, this was released to a cryptography mailing list 14 years ago, and then the code was released. People had a chance to look at the code. The very first Bitcoin was mined on January 3rd, 2009. These are different references, which Satoshi references in the white paper. Again, head over to ricetvx.com. You'll find links for Rice Against the Grain, my new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe here at Rice TVX. You can support the channel and get early access to videos and exclusive content over on my Patreon. Make sure you are subscribed on Rumble and Odyssey. I'm going to be doing exclusive live streams for Rice Against the Grain on Odyssey and over on Rumble. So here's the Rice Against the Grain channel. I have 239 subscribers, now 240. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. I've got an introduction video talking about what I'm going to be doing over on Rice Against the Grain. Also, the Rumble channel, I've got 281 subscribers. Need to get that number up as well, but I can go live there and I can go live on Odyssey. Odyssey is where you're going to find all of my videos. 100% of my videos are here because I've had to delete so many from YouTube, or YouTube has deleted them because they feel like what I'm saying is too much for the internet to handle, unfortunately. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you guys for taking the time to tune in. I'm going to go ahead and look at the comments. See what we have going on here. So, Mr. B, thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate you subscribing on my Rumble channel. Gulag G, good seeing you in the house. Sandstorm, the NSA did create SHA-256. That is 100% correct. So it's the Bitcoin white paper, and what Bitcoin did, aside from taking work from other cryptographers, was taking other technologies and combining them. And the encryption did come from NSA SHA-256. Ralph Russell says digital currency is still under the Federal Reserve. Bitcoin totally under Federal Reserve. Now, I did have a gentleman by the name of Kent Lewis on recently. If you haven't seen the video, the thumbnail says global slave system. Check that out. We're going to be talking a little bit. He did a research paper on the Federal Reserve and Bitcoin that I definitely want to get his thoughts on. And again, Sam Storm, if Satoshi is the government, is it not possible that we have good people in the government and we have bad people in the government, and there's good people trying to look out for we the people versus the bad people per se that are going against we the people? So I try to have positive thinking when it comes to this, because regardless of who created it, the code is open source. You can review every aspect of this thing like a glass house and inspect it like you need to. Gulag says that Bitcoin has no backdoor because he's a backdoor expert. I bet you are, Gulag. Let's see here. And yeah, I definitely want to get your thoughts. I mean, if you think that the Bitcoin was created by central banks, you think it was created by governments, that's interesting because of, again, the open source nature to this. The fact that it is distributed and that anyone can participate. Let me see here what we have going on with the comments. Ryan Claggett. All right, man. I look forward to getting your email. Appreciate that. LV says U.S. Central Bank. Well, U.S. Central Bank is the Federal Reserve. Stereo 2. It is the hollows of the weens. Rocco. Okay. So this is Rocco from Sin City. Cool, sweet. I definitely need to get in touch with you, my friend. Let's see here. LaBelle says that I'm going to ignore your first comment, but should be at the top. I'm not sure what should be at the top of the white paper. What should be at the top of the white paper? The reflection of your glasses, dude, is studying. My reflection is my screen. So right in front of me is a camera. Right here. This is a camera. Over here is my laptop. Over here is my monitor. My laptop is up in the air over there, and my monitor is what I look at. And then beyond this, on the other side of this, is my television. And I'm live watching myself on television. So I've got myself on my big screen, myself on my laptop, myself on. Yeah, I'm just all over the place. This is how I see everything, though. But thank you, 5 Anthony. How about a CBDC's merger Bitcoin? That's not possible, LV. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but it's not possible. I mean, you could build a CBDC on Bitcoin, on the blockchain, but merging, no. Yeah, and also a CBDC is not one. It's not going to be a cryptocurrency. It's just going to be a straight digital asset, and it's going to be centralized, where Bitcoin is decentralized. So I don't see a CBDC being decentralized, and the government is not going to be able to take over Bitcoin. What's up, TPA? It's good seeing you, my friend. Let's definitely catch up. Okay, so wait until you find out the NSA is Satoshi and use Bitcoin to push people towards non-digital, non-fungible, and fungible assets are in. Okay, I get what you're saying. I do. And whether this is a training wheel for us to get acclimated for CBDCs or not, it still opened up a Pandora's box. It created a level of discussion and thought with people to get away from the control mechanisms of the central banks and governments. So if they did create it, here's the beautiful thing. We can always take all these technologies and fork the code. We can continue forking. And then what I like to say is just basically to those entities, well, fork you, because that's what we can do. We can fork the technologies. And regardless, again, of who created it, you can take these. There has been cryptocurrencies beyond Bitcoin that the technologies are not government created. I know some individuals that have created some of these cryptocurrencies. I know for a fact that there's no government entities involved. And it took Bitcoin's code to influence them and inspire them to take that code, differentiate it, change it, make it better, improve upon it, and create something for we the people. So again, this is why I'm trying to say, regardless of what Bitcoin is today, the idea of what Bitcoin represents is bigger than anything. Maybe it wasn't intentional for this to be the case, but it's fueled a lot of individuals. Good seeing you, Mr. X. Let's see here. Forrest Jackson, thank you for tuning in. Again, if you guys didn't catch that episode of Around the Blockchain today, I definitely encourage you to do so. Steve Bletchman is the last comment I'll read before we wrap up, I think, because it's the last comment. I think Elon is Satoshi, and he's going to use his stash to get everyone to Mars and move people through time and space powering Bitcoin. And Steve, I would say that you probably watch Chico Crypto. Now, I'm not I don't personally talk to Tyler, and we don't have any sort of business relationship. But I do respect the Chico Crypto channel and the research. I like Chico's video talking about Sergey Nazarov, the creator of Chainlink. That makes a lot of sense. But I don't think that Satoshi is limited to one individual. But I do like Chico's content. I figured I was right. I do like Chico's content, and I have shared those videos with people. They could control the on and off ramps in our current society. If you want food, you have to use their CBDC. Well, now, Samstorm, again, this is where agorism comes into play. And I will be talking a lot more about agorism. I'm trying to pull up something really quickly. Counter economics, my friend. Counter economics. So, agorism is a social philosophy that advocates creating a society in which all relations between people are voluntary exchanges by means of counter economics, engaging with aspects of non-violent revolution. Non-violent revolution, but creating voluntary. It's a voluntary exchange of voluntary exchange by means of counter economics. Counter economics. This is where we create our own parallel systems. This is where we use something like Bitcoin or a decentralized cryptocurrency to opt out of the US dollar and say, fork you to the banks, say, fork you to the government, and use our own system of money, currency, whatever you want to call it. Because again, here's the crazy concept. When it comes down to things having value, it's all in your head. It's all something that we just agree upon. Now, gold and silver, I'm a big proponent of precious metals. Gold and silver, they have use. You can do things with them. You can use the metals for a variety of things. But as far as its value, its worth, that is something that we agree upon and perceive this in our mind, that we agree this has value and we're going to use this as a way to measure our energy, our output. So when we do work, we want to be compensated for that. And we agree that what we're being compensated on has value, when in fact, nothing really technically has any value. Nothing is worth anything. It's nothing. It's a mental game that we play. I mean, that's been one of the reasons why I got involved in cryptocurrency, was ultimately just so we can get rid of this idea of currency and money. It's kind of a crazy concept to think about, but nothing has value unless we agree that it does. And in older time periods, it's been known that puka shells were a form of currency, and people would buy and sell things with puka shells. So, but our current system, Forrest Jackson puts this great: sweat equity. It's a slave-based system that is based on debt from the future. We are taking from the future for the present. It's usury. And it's ridiculous. When I look at the Monopoly game and I look at the money in the Monopoly game, I can't help But think about the US dollar. I was going to try to pull up my Instagram and then wrap this up because I think I have a post that I put on my Instagram that has Monopoly money. Yeah, I do. So I will go ahead and stop this screen share that I got going on here so I can do another screen share with this. Now, I don't like the part that it says the Fed thinks this is funny because I'm sure the Fed doesn't think this is funny. But Monopoly money is not worth anything. It's just a game. And US dollars since 1971, I mean, you can go back to the Bretton Woods Agreement, but since 1971, we were taken off the gold standard by our president, Richard Nixon, something called the Nixon shock. So dollars are not backed by anything. And the Constitution says all money should be backed by gold and silver, but money is not backed by anything. But the colors of the monopoly money are actually really similar to today's fiat money. The ones, the fives, the tens, the 20s, and the 50s. But what I like to say about these things is that the only difference in between these two pieces of paper is that you think one actually has value. I may have another one that's got that on here. I'm just going to double check. I like to use Instagram to post a bunch of shite. Let's see here. But yeah, the only difference between these two pieces of paper is that you think one has value. Value is all perceived. Steve, I'm from Canada. What's your opinion on our laws where we can make any digital capital gains and BTC, ETH, in Litecoin, but all coins we can only make up to 30K profits per year? I'm not in Canada, unfortunately. I'm in the United States. But when it comes to the things that you talk about, I'm going to be covering some of those topics in regards to taxes. I will be covering some of that on Rice TVX, but a lot of it I'm going to be covering on Rice Against the Grain. Rice Against the Grain is a new channel because I've decided to split my content up over here on Rice TVX due to the censorship. Being that this is my job, my full-time job, I can't afford losing a channel because of censorship. So the controversial stuff will be on a new channel. And that way I don't have to worry about any effect here. But I will be covering topics like that a lot more often. So all right, my friends. Yeah, I would suggest that you guys definitely educate yourself, read that white paper in its entirety, because for me, it started a mental revolution that got me really, really wanting to learn about how the monetary system really truly worked, what's going on, where we're at today, what we can do to save ourselves and each other and get away from the control mechanisms of the governments and central banks that's not supposed to be there, because these are, especially the government, is supposed to be of, for, and by the people. And we definitely need to start standing up for things that we believe in. And I feel that that's what the entity known as Satoshi Nakamoto was doing. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, this is open source technology. You can review the code. I'm not a coder, but you can get with a coder. You can learn coding, and you can find all the information you need by going through all the code that's written for Bitcoin. And you will see that it has no backdoors. It's completely transparent. It's an open, transparent ledger system that gives us a currency that is decentralized and not controlled by governments or central banks. That gives we, the people, an option. Again, if that's not what Bitcoin is today, there are other cryptocurrencies that represent these ideologies. So whether or not, again, this is not a discussion about Bitcoin, where it is today. This is not a discussion on who is Satoshi Nakamoto. This is a discussion that 14 years ago today, the Bitcoin white paper is released, giving birth to this cryptocurrency ecosystem, giving birth to everything that has come beyond it. Privacy coins, layer 1 coins, the DeFi system, NFTs, being your own bank, taking responsibility. It's powerful. And I greatly appreciate it. Stan is doing good for us. Stan's actually talked about coming back on the channel and doing some videos. And hopefully I can get him to share a little bit about what he's going to be doing a little bit more in the future. So again, make sure you subscribe over here at Rice TVX. Subscribe to my new channel, Rice Against the Grain. Follow me on Rumble and Odyssey. And stay tuned for tomorrow's video. That's going to be all about the Cypherpunk Manifesto. And that is the idea of what the cypherpunks represent, what they're trying to achieve, and how that led into the creation of Bitcoin. It's almost like a prequel to the Bitcoin white paper. So thank you for tuning in for today's video. I greatly appreciate it. I will be talking more about the changes on the channel towards the end of the week. Definitely working on scheduling some awesome content, figuring out what I'm going to be doing moving forward with both channels. So again, changes are coming. I will be explaining a lot to everybody. But the other thing I would definitely encourage you to do, make sure you head over to ricetvx.com. I'm going to try to do one more screen share. If you can bear with me one moment. It just takes me a little second here to get everything pulled up. Okay, so here we are. Let me get this back on full screen. Get rid of the thumbnail. Go over here, ricetvx.com. Put your email in here and submit it. Submit that email so that you never miss an update on new Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain content. Stay ahead of censorship. Sign up with your email address to receive the Rice TVX newsletter. Once you're done with that, click close. You'll see all my social media links. Rice Against the Grain YouTube, Rice TVX YouTube, my Patreon channel, which will be 2 YouTube channels on 1 Patreon. My Rumble and Odyssey channel. You can follow me on my social media on Twitter, Truth Social, Float.app. You can also find Rice Radio. If you're interested in hearing my previous music, I used to sing in metal bands and all kinds of different other musicas, you can check out my SoundCloud and my Reverb Nation. These last 2 links with the star in the cloud. But again, make sure you head over here. All my links are there. You can sign up for my mailing list, and it would be greatly appreciated. I do thank you for tuning in. If you haven't smashed that like button, I encourage you to do so. And I will leave you with this. Be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch you want to see in the matrix. Be the change you want to see in the world. Practice change. Much love, and I'll see you on the next show. Holla.